You are the captain of a massive cargo ship, and today, your next assignment begins. Before the ship even leaves the harbor, the supervisor hands you the documents for the voyage. A few signatures later, the ship is officially your responsibility, which sounds cool, until literally everything becomes your responsibility. Before departure, you inspect the entire crew. You count every single person on board, because realizing someone is missing in the middle of the Pacific Ocean would be a pretty awkward situation. After that, you inspect the cargo containers, check the supplies, and of course, the kitchen, because nobody survives weeks at sea with terrible food. You even taste the meals yourself. Purely professional reasons, obviously. Definitely not because you're hungry. Next, you inspect the engine room. Everything looks clean. Everything works perfectly. For once, nobody is causing problems. Honestly, that alone feels suspicious. Soon after, the ship finally leaves the harbor. Now it's just you, your crew, and thousands of kilometers of open ocean. You explain the route to your officers, monitor the systems, and constantly check the radar. Because out here, one mistake can become a disaster very quickly. Later that day, you notice dark clouds forming ahead, and with the binoculars, you realize exactly where you're heading. Straight into a storm, a really bad one. Not long after, the ship is swallowed by massive waves, heavy rain, and non-stop lightning. The entire vessel starts shaking violently, and then one of the containers breaks loose and disappears into the ocean. Now things get serious. Alarms start going off everywhere. A massive wave hits the ship, while another warning suddenly comes from the engine room. And at this point, you completely lose your patience. You immediately sprint down toward the engine room. Chaos, water, steam, oil all over the floor. The crew is trying to stop everything from falling apart. You start yelling orders at everyone, grab one of the crew members by the collar, and make it very clear that nobody is leaving until the problem is fixed. At some point, you stop trusting everyone else and repair part of the machinery yourself, because apparently being captain also means becoming an emergency mechanic now. Hours later, the storm finally calms down. Exhausted, you return to your cabin and collapse into bed. The next morning, you wake up to sunlight. No alarms, no screaming, no giant waves trying to delete the ship. For the first time in a while, everything feels peaceful. You have breakfast with the crew, call your family while you still have signal, and finally relax for a moment. Unfortunately, the ocean has other plans. A few fast boats suddenly appear near the ship. Pirates. Actual pirates. And now you have to deal with it. You immediately order parts of the crew to use water hoses against the attackers, while others continue operating the ship. Because even during a pirate attack, the cargo still has to keep moving, somehow. Most of the pirates fail to climb aboard, except one. One pirate actually makes it onto the deck. Huge mistake. Because the moment you see him, you launch a kick straight into his chest like you've secretly been training martial arts your entire life. The pirate flies back into the ocean, the attackers retreat, and suddenly, you become the absolute hero of the ship. Now the entire crew looks at you like you're the final boss of the ocean. That evening, everyone celebrates together in the dining hall. The ship survived the storm, the pirates are gone, nobody sank. Honestly, that's already a successful week at sea. Later, you spend time with the crew in the recreation room, playing games, and finally enjoying a normal evening again. But then the shipping company calls, and somehow, they blame you for the container that fell into the ocean. So naturally, you start yelling back. You remind them that they overloaded the ship in the first place, which, surprisingly, you don't enjoy hearing very much. The call ends pretty quickly after that. Several days later, land finally appears on the horizon. The ship slowly approaches the destination harbor, while tugboats guide the massive vessel safely into port. The containers are unloaded, you hand over the important documents to the supervisor, shake hands, and officially complete the assignment. Finally, after days at sea, you climb into a taxi and head toward your hotel. For the first time in forever, there are no alarms, no storms, and nobody spilling oil in the engine room. You check into the hotel, rest for a while, and enjoy the peace. But not for too long. Because before long, you're already back in another taxi, heading toward the harbor again. New mission, new crew, new problems, and probably another storm waiting somewhere out there. This would be your life as a cargo ship captain.